Hello, church family. I hope you're well. I want to take a few moments to give you an update on the COVID situation. It's not any late breaking news, but it just seems like it's a good time for some clarifications on where we've been, where we are now, and then perhaps where we're heading. So let's start with where we've been. In short, the city issued mandates for all of our public interaction. Many of those didn't apply specifically to the church, and even the ones that did weren't followed with a lot of detail. So the city asked churches to submit for their approval a gathering protocol, which was a plan for what our cooperation would look like. Now, our plan was not complex. It included simple steps such as limiting capacity, spreading out the chairs, and our suggestion was that we would encourage our people to wear masks and social distance. This plan was readily approved by the county within just a few moments, which does make me think that our local governments are genuinely trying to accommodate the church's unique context. We followed that with the video announcement where we said that we would wear masks and social distance in our effort to cooperate with the health mandates. Now, that came with a few caveats. One, that we were not going to police all the exceptions every week. We would let you know what the expectation was, and then you could do what was right based on that. Even now, with all the medical and mental exceptions for you and your children, it still seems it would be best for you to seek clarification either from the county or from a doctor, as some of you have done. The second caveat was that some of our church relationships are essentially family. So the closeness and regularity of your contact is such that the hope of limiting exposure is long gone. In other words, you do so much life with some of the people in church through family, friend, or small group relationships that wearing a mask to talk to them at church is no longer really protecting you or them. And I say all this to help you see that there may appear at times to be inconsistencies in the applications of the COVID precautions. But our goal has always been a spirit of cooperation with local authorities and a spirit of concern for the church family. And we could probably talk more about how that is fleshed out, but the reality is the winds of change are trying to blow. And I think most would agree that it would be nice to get out of the doldrums of this COVID stuff. So let me try to at least explain where we are, though it may not sound too different from where we've been. The City of Independence has acknowledged declining numbers in hospitalizations and cases, and they have announced some minor transitional beginning steps to relaxing their mandates. Now, there's only one line in this announcement that applies to churches specifically, and it reads as follows, quote, "All gathering limits on faith services have been relaxed. Faith organizations are no longer required to submit a gathering protocol form, but are asked to continue voluntarily wearing masks, practicing social distancing, and regularly washing their hands and shared surfaces." End quote. Now, I think this is good news. First, because it means fewer people are sick and hospitalized. Second, because it appears to be a step toward, or at least a look toward, normalcy. Further, the city's language of asking and voluntary essentially removes the tension of mandates. It removes the question of constitutional rights. It, in a sense, takes away the discussion of civil disobedience from the church conversation. It's kind of like we're starting over. And now they are just asking churches for voluntary cooperation in putting an end to the spread of this virus. Now, because churches are the only ones being asked for voluntary cooperation, I do think that our answer reflects quite clearly on the testimony of Christ and on our teaching of what it looks like as Christians to love our neighbor. And if you haven't caught last Sunday's message, then I think that would be helpful in understanding this weight of responsibility we should feel in being asked to voluntarily cooperate in this case. Now, there's one other consideration when we try to figure out where we are. And that is, we are just a few weeks removed from a significant spike in cases even in our congregation. 10 to 12 families that were either sick with the virus or clearly exposed to it. And so, in moving forward, we would want to do that with due caution. So where are we now? We are hopefully transitioning to more and more normalcy. But we really are awaiting further announcements from the local authorities about what that would look like, even in regards to the church. We are still wearing masks and socially distancing the chairs, but it's not under the mandate or under the gathering protocol, as Independence has said, for religious gatherings that has been lifted. We are only governed by our biblical spirit of cooperation with the government and a biblical spirit of concern for those in our body. So, if you come in person, please do it in this spirit of cooperation, knowing that we are trying to honor what the city has asked of us, and you are trying to honor what the elders have asked of you. And then come in a spirit of concern. Concern for those in our church who are fearful of the virus, who perhaps have not had it and would be glad to not get it. And just know that these precautions can still exist for a little bit longer. So where are we going? I want everyone to begin wrestling with what it will look like to transition away from majority mask wearing to minority mask wearing. And I think it will be a wrestling match in your heart and mind between your desires and your concerns and then your love for others. However the transition happens here, it may not please you exactly. It may not meet all your concerns. And so you may be asked to bear a burden of love for someone else. I just want everyone to be thinking that a time is coming when the masks will not be required in town or in church, and that will create yet another opportunity to offend or to be offended. When that day comes, and there will come that Sunday when we can tell everyone we can finally sing without masks on. When that day comes, and that would be normal, remember, wearing masks and social distancing has become kind of normal, but it's not. So normal will be returning to non-mask wearing singing in our worship and in our daily lives. When that day comes, you might think it has come way too late, and someone else may think the time should not have come yet. That will be the next frontier for obedience to Ephesians 4:2, which calls us to bear with one another in love, to be patient with one another, and to endure some difficulty for one another. The day is coming, and you need to be thinking now, what is my mindset going to be when the majority of people are not wearing masks? and really need not wear masks. If you are still concerned, then you might be in the vast minority wearing a mask. Are you preparing yourself for that time? And if you're the one who's ready and willing to cast off the masks at any moment, then just know perhaps there would be a season of time where when you fellowship with someone who is concerned, you could still keep a mask in your back pocket. Pull it out, put it on in honor of that person that still has a concern. So we're going to operate under this approach of voluntary cooperation, a voluntary spirit of concern, at least through the month of March. This will allow any of the lingering exposure of the virus in our body, hopefully, to pass. And it may also allow for some clarification to come and any further announcements from the city or county. What we just need to be thinking of is the future with transition and change back to normal. Because here again, that'll be something we haven't done. That's another step, another frontier, another opportunity for us to think biblically and to love genuinely. And so continue to pray and to walk with us with the Spirit's help in such a way that we can do this in a spirit of love and unity in our church family. We are going to schedule our next announcement for April 1st. Unless anything changes from the City of Independence, we will be glad to keep you informed before then. But look for us to communicate with you the 1st of April, and we'll see what the future looks like as we gather to worship each week. So for now, enjoy the beautiful end of winter, this transition to spring. And with all these transitions, we're reminded of how the Bible takes transition, even with the seasons, and reminds us that our God is faithful and He never changes. And when you look around at all the lack of clarity and mandates and application and the inconsistency of some and others, we're reminded again that in our God there is no inconsistency. There is no lack of clarity. And so rejoice in our Good Shepherd. Rejoice in His good gifts. Rejoice in His church. Grace and peace to you all.